Hi, this is Dr. Imanacker. In this video, we are going to look at developing a regression analysis for a set of data. If you need to step through the process slowly, there is a video that was posted prior to this one that steps you through with a lot of time taken at each step along the way. This one's going to move a little more quickly. In fact, I would encourage you, prior to watching this video, to pause it now, enter this data into your calculator, graph the data, choose an appropriate equation to match the data, compute that equation, and then plot it to see how accurately that particular equation that you chose matches the data. Once you have that all done, you can then go ahead and play the video to see what the results are. Additionally, if somewhere along the way with the video paused, you get stuck, play the video to the point where, oh yeah, that's what I do next. Pause the video and then continue working forward, getting as far as you can on your own without the use of the video. All right, so let's have at this. What we have here is a set of data, and in this set of data, it's the average hours of sleep a night and a death rate per 100,000. This is for males in the United States. It's rather interesting to see um, how this works. So I'm not going to go into the why the relationship exists and things of that nature, but here's the data. We're told that the men who average 5 hours of sleep tonight have a death rate of about 100,000 per, or I'm sorry, about 1,121 people per 100,000. It's the highest death rate. Notice that the lowest is right around an average of 7 hours of sleep a night. And then 8 hours and 6 hours are right around on each side of that. Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to first think about which is the independent variable and which is the dependent variable. I don't think the death rate determines how many hours you sleep a night. Okay, that hopefully doesn't make any sense to you, which means that the number of hours of sleep is going to have some relationship to the death rate. Hours of sleep will be X, which means this will be Y. I'm going to move over to the calculator. I'm going to turn this on. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to press second quit. Notice there is data there from another problem, so I'm going to have to erase that before I get into the new data. First thing I need to do is to enter my data into the calculator. So I'm going to go Stat. I'm going to choose Edit. As was just mentioned, there is already data here. I don't want this data at this point, so I'm going to highlight L2. I want to clear this list, so I'm going to press Clear, Enter. Then using the left arrow and then up, I'm going to highlight L1, clear, and enter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to enter in my data, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 for the hours of sleep. Then I'm going to, in list 2, put my Y values, 1121, 805, 626, 813, and then 967. I'm going to check to make sure that both lists are the same length. If they aren't the same length, there's a problem. You need to go back and determine, did I enter a number in more than once or did I leave a number out somewhere? Either way, you need to fix your data. Now, next thing I'm going to do is fix the window, adjust the window to this particular set of data. Okay, so this data goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I definitely do not need a maximum of 80. In this case, I'm going to move my um, minimum to something like, okay, in this case, I'm going to move my minimum, to say maybe a -3 or -4. Let's do -4. And then I'm going to set my maximum at 10. So I've got a little space there. My scale, I'm just going to set this at something like 2. Then moving on to the y values, notice the maximum is 1121. The minimum is 625. Now, this is fairly far up from a y value of 0, so I'm not going to try and start this at 0. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my minimum at 500, my maximum at 1200. And then notice from 500 to 1200 is a distance of 700. If I was to divide that by 10, that would say I would need a tick point every 70, which might be kind of hard to count by. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put a tick mark every 50. It's pretty close. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to y equals. I don't need these equations at this point, so I'm going to clear them. Notice I didn't say delete. I'm going to clear them. And just out of curiosity, noticing my plot 1 is already on, I'm going to go ahead and press graph and see what happens here. Now this is kind of strange because notice the y-axis is over on the right-hand side. I want it on the left-hand side, so I probably messed up something on my x values. Oh yeah, remember I wanted my x maximum at 9, or let's say 10. Didn't get that 0 in there, did I? So let's graph it again and let's see how this works. Okay, there's a whole lot of space here on the left-hand side, and I'm thinking maybe I need to adjust that some, get rid of some of that space on the left-hand side. So instead of going from -4, I'm going to try something like 0 and graph that. And all I'm doing is kind of experimenting here. Okay, well that's better. Now take a look at this graph. And the question is, what's the general shape of this graph? I'm hoping you're not thinking this is a line. Okay, this is definitely not a line. It's kind of like a parabola. If this value was moved a little further, it might be a better parabola. But hey, the data is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do stat. On the top in the toolbar, I'm going to come over to calculate. And I'm going to try fitting it to a quadratic, which is option 5. Okay, my x values are in list 1. My y values are in list 2. Not going to worry about the frequency list. Store the regression equation. I want to put this in y1. Remember, we got rid of the equations that were in y1 and 2, so I'm going to come down here. Underneath the arrows, press variables. I'm going to move to the right to y variables. This is going to be a function. It's not a parametric or a polar equation. So I press option 1. I want it to be in y1, so I'm going to press 1. Then I'm going to arrow down to calculate and press enter. And there we go. So now we have our equation. And what we want to do is we want to check and see how well does this fit the data. So I'm going to press graph. And you know that fits the data pretty well. So what I'm going to wind up doing is for this particular problem, I'm going to go quit because, well, I was hoping that my equation would still be there. It's not there. But the good news is it is here. So I'm going to put down that the equation that I'm going to use for this data is going to be y equals 93.286. And let's see here. I want to scroll to the right. Okay, so that's my x squared term. Then, see on the very far right, it says plus. It isn't minus this time. It's going to be plus. Oh, it is going to be a negative. It's plus a negative, so that's just minus 1336x. Then let's see here. We need to come and pick up the constant. Okay, so I'm going to have plus I ran out of space on the screen here. 5460.829. Okay, so this is the equation that fits the data. It goes like this. As you can see from the graph that we've already done, it fits the data pretty well. With this equation, we can now do some estimates. For example, we can estimate the rate at 10 hours sleep. To do that, there are several ways to do that. One is to substitute 10 in for the x where it's squared, in for the x where it's multiplied by the negative 1336, and then add the 5460.828. That's one way to do this. Another way to do this is to go to table. This is something we did not discuss in a previous video, so this is some new stuff here. First thing I want to do before I go to tables, do second table setup. I want to make sure, and you need to make sure on your calculator that, see where it says independent, it's on ask, where it says dependent, it's on automatic. If either of those needs to be altered, you just bring the cursor down, you press enter, and notice now my independent's on automatic. I don't want that. I want the calculator to ask me for the value of x that it wants. Then when I press second and table, I have some numbers left over from a previous problem. I'm going to press delete several times and get rid of those. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to enter in 10. And when I enter in 10, it's going to take this value, x equals 10, substitute it into equation y1, and give me an approximation. So the rate at 10 hours of sleep is going to be about 1,429. Okay. And this would be the death rate per 100,000 people for people who average 10 hours of sleep a night. If, on the other hand, you were asked what's the death rate, well, let's do something crazy like 2 hours of sleep a night, that's not healthy. And you'll see that the death rate goes way up. Okay, it's almost triple what it is at 5 hours of sleep a night. So what we can do now is we can use this equation to estimate what's going to happen at some point of interest to us. All right, I hope this video is useful to you. Be sure that you practice several of these, do the homeworks with these. This is an important process. It's not one that we're going to use every day, but throughout Calc 1 and Calc 2, you will be encountering sets of data where you have to get the equation that best fits that data. If you're not able to do this and don't remember how to do this, you're going to run into difficulties along the way throughout both semesters of the course. So be sure this is working well for you.